So I'll be looking at geothermal power in New Zealand. There's a photo of some geothermal power plants in New Zealand. A little bit of background on it. Geothermal energy was historically recognized from hot springs and geysers, such as Yellowstone. The first geothermal power plant was invented by Prince Piero Ginori in 1904 in Tuscany, Italy. Geothermal is a clean, renewable, and safe source of energy. It is also a lot cheaper, less maintenance, and more durable than other sources. The United States produces the most geothermal energy, but only 0.4% of our energy comes from geothermal because we have a massive population. New Zealand produces 20% of its electricity from geothermal. How geothermal works. Geothermal harnesses power from below the Earth's surface. Geothermal reservoirs lie deep below the surface, which are pools of water heated by molten rock or magma. Steam is released from these reservoirs, and the ability to harness the steam is what powers a geothermal plant. Direct uses of it. Geothermal is used in three main ways: direct use, power generation, and ground source heating and cooling. Direct use includes the steam for recreational purposes, such as hot springs for bathing and other tourism, which is used in New Zealand. And the photo in the bottom right hand corner is a photo of the hot water beach, I believe it's called, where you just dig in the sand and there's a hot spring. Other direct uses of it by New Zealand include aquaculture for warming the fish farms, greenhouses, melting ice, and to help dry out food such as dairy to be exported to places like Asia. The total direct geothermal use in New Zealand is about 8.6 terajoules per year. Geothermal power plants. There are three main types of geothermal power plants. The most common one is the dry steam power plant. This takes the hot steam from underground and pipes it directly into turbines, which powers the generator. After powering, the steam is condensed into water and is piped back into the earth by injection well. The second type of power plant is a flash steam power plant. Instead of pumping steam, they pump hot water to the surface. Water is pumped at high pressure into the surface into a flash tank, and it's turned into steam in the flash tank, and that steam is used to power the turbines. So similar to a dry steam power plant, the steam is condensed back into water after use, and it's pumped back into the earth for reuse eventually. And the last type of power plant is the binary cycle power plant. Water or steam from below the earth never comes into contact with the turbines. The water is pumped up through a heat exchanger where it heats a second liquid that boils at a much lower temperature than water. And then the steam from that liquid is used to power the turbines. And in the end, both liquids are recycled and reused. And ground system heating and cooling is the last type. For more home or single building use, geothermal heat pumps can be used to heat or cool the building. The temperature below the Earth's surface remains between 55 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. There are 4 types of pumps, and each depends on the type of soil, climate, and land available. There are 3 closed-loop systems: horizontal, vertical, and pond lake. Horizontal is the best for residential areas. Vertical is used for larger commercial buildings. And a pond or lake system is if you're located near a pond or lake, and it is usually the cheapest. Water circulates through loops underground and into the building. The electric compressors and heat exchangers transfer the heat through ducts in the building. There is only one type of open loop system. Water is taken directly from a source and into the heat pump, where it can then be pumped back into the same source. These require a steady flow of water capable of powering a house. So where is geothermal used? The graph in the top right shows which countries use it for power generation and which countries only use it for ground source heating, cooling, and direct use. So countries like the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Iceland, Russia, China, they all use power generation. The top 10 geothermal countries, the US is number 1, Indonesia 2, New Zealand's up there for how small they are. And geothermal is most active along the plate boundaries or ring of fire where there's the most movement from the earth. So the graph on the right shows where the ring of fire is. So those countries have it. Areas in that area have the best geothermal potential. And along the Atlantic Ridge too, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So countries like Iceland. Electricity generation. Most of New Zealand's geothermal capacity lies in the Taupo volcanic zone, which is one of the places we're going to visit. Power companies in New Zealand generate about 7,500 gigawatt hours per year from 19 power plants located over 8 high temperature fields. Individual unit sizes range from 3.3 megawatt equivalent to 133 megawatts. There are 6 companies that operate geothermal power stations in New Zealand. Mercury Energy, Contact Energy, Top Energy, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, and then Eastland Energy and Nova. Mercury is the market leader with 489 megawatt electric. And the graph in the bottom right shows New Zealand's electricity generation. So 60% of their electricity comes from hydro, and about 20% now comes from geothermal. So they get mostly all their energy from renewable sources, which is pretty cool. And the graph on the left shows as the years progressed which renewables have fluctuated. In total, it's always been going up. Geothermal's been going up steadily. Looks like solar's been going up too. Hydro's actually been going down, but I'm pretty sure they're at their peak potential with hydro. Geothermal fields. The 2 geothermal zones of New Zealand are in the Northland and the Taupo volcanic zone. Of New Zealand's 129 identified geothermal areas, 14 are in the 70 to 140 degrees Celsius range, 7 are in the 140 to 220 degrees Celsius range, and 15 are in the 220 plus range. Moderate to low temperature ones are scattered about. Geothermal fields are associated with young and active rhyolitic volcanism. There are a total of 29 geothermal areas in New Zealand. They are typically about 12 square kilometers in area. Here's a map of the geothermal fields of the North Island, which is where they mainly all are. So the area shown is the Taupo volcanic zone, and the map in the top right shows the Northland region where there's just one. And it shows which ones are developed, protected, under research, limited development. Future outlook. Geothermal plays a key role in the decarbonizing of the New Zealand energy market, and there are a number of new developments for the future. Around the world, geothermal is becoming more appropriate where it is applicable along continental plate boundaries. The total capacity of geothermal energy in the United States is 3,200 megawatts, which is the equivalent of 3 nuclear power plants. California is expanding its geothermal capacity. Currently, geothermal accounts for 6% of the state's energy with 43 plants. 66% of Iceland's primary energy use comes from geothermal. Here's a map of what countries have how many megawatts installed. So the leaders are the United States, New Zealand, Philippines, Japan, Italy, Iceland. Kenya, which it shows Kenya as Tanzania for some reason. But Kenya, I know the Kenya, Caribbean, and Indonesia are all on the rise and have big plans to implement more geothermal. Those are my sources. And that's it.